So let's give Arianna Huffington a big welcome, Trojan welcome, back to USC.
Thank you so much, President Fall. Thank you for such an incredibly warm and generous introduction. And thank you for mentioning my mother, who is in many ways the foundation of my existence and of everything I've done. And thank you for honoring Terry the same day that I'm here, because Terry has been such an incredible influence for my youngest daughter, who is just graduating this year from Harvard Divinity School. And if you want to know the power of one professor to transform a life, that's Terry. And so when I found out that you're going to be here, I thought this is such an amazing omen. That, plus the fact that Varun's son, Siddhartha, was born on the same day, exactly, August 30, 2022, as my grandson, Alexander. So I assume Siddhartha and Alexander are getting ready to change the world. And President Fall, congratulations on such an incredible career spanning so many achievements from Dartmouth to UNC to USC. Thank you for everything you've done. And I bet the next chapter is going to be just as amazing. And thank you, Vanessa, Ishan, Aimon, and Gabi, for your readings, for everything you are doing, and Sawyer for that beautiful song. And thank you for this opportunity to be with you at such a special moment in your lives. It's great to be here among the Trojans. I know historically a Greek showing up in the land of the Trojans didn't end all that well for the host. But I promise there is no Trojan horse anywhere to be seen. I understand Traveler is the only horse in the area. And one thing I learned when I asked my research assistant, ChatGPT, about you, is that Fighting Trojans wasn't actually your original nickname. Your original nickname was Fighting Methodists, which would not exactly strike fear in your new Big Ten opponents. Graduation is actually my favorite time of the year. It's like wisdom season, a parenthesis in time in which we gather together, we pause, and collectively reflect on life's big questions. Commencements often focus on how to succeed in the world and get ahead, and that's certainly important. And tomorrow, just a little preview of your commencement speaker's remarks. He's going to mention a very important Chinese restaurant in Palo Alto that his parents founded and have been running for over 50 years. And his parents are here today, so all I can say is I can't wait to visit your restaurant. So tomorrow will be your big commencement. But today is the baccalaureate, and the baccalaureate is less about how to build a career and more about how to build a life that includes a career but should not be defined by it. And building a good life, which is what my Greek compatriots called it, however modern, requires tapping into some ancient truths. That's especially important right now because you're not just graduating at any time or in any year. You're graduating at a time of profound transition, Of course, every generation assumes they are living in an age of transition. I have a feeling that maybe Eve turned to Adam and said, "Darling, we're living in a time of transition." But you are really living in a time of transition. You've been surrounded by technology your whole lives, but this is different. This wave of AI technology is going to change everything about how we live, how we work, and our sense of who we are. From the beginning of time, there have always been moments that are inflection points, that change human history, that separate life into what came before and what comes after. The discovery of fire, the wheel, the printing press, electricity, these were all transformational to the fate of humanity. But of all the transformational possibilities AI opens up, the one I'm most passionate about is the one that's very rarely discussed. And this is how AI can help humans become more human. In a fireside chat I did with Sam Altman, OpenAI's CEO, I asked him what he expected the world his children would inherit to be like. And he replied that his children will be the first generation that will never be more intelligent than AI. Now, before you accuse Sam of being too hard on his kids, all experts agree that AI's cognitive abilities will soon be greater than humans, even those humans graduating from USC. If Descartes' "I think, therefore I am" no longer defines us, if the things humans are better at continue to narrow, that raises the question, what does it then mean to be human? What are the most essential qualities? Wisdom, resilience, compassion, courage, loving, that humans need to bring into this new era. And how can AI help us tap into that center, that powerful place inside us where all these qualities live? In 1968, as part of Apollo 8, William Anders became one of the first 4 humans to orbit the moon. As he did, he took the famous Earthrise photo and later declared, "We came all this way to explore the moon, and the most important thing is that we discovered the Earth." And that's what I feel is happening with AI. We are going to great lengths to explore AI and make it more human, but AI's greatest potential will be in helping us discover ourselves and who we truly are, helping humans become more human by forcing us to ask the big questions we have been neglecting for centuries, since the Industrial Revolution, actually. The celebrated social critic Susan Sontag once said that every era has to reinvent the project of spirituality for itself. And with AI, you can be the first generation that will be able to use the most modern technology to reconnect us with our most ancient and universal longing, the longing to connect both with ourselves and with something larger than ourselves. Of course, that part of our humanity beyond our intelligence, whether we call it consciousness, soul, spirit, Atman, has been the foundation of every spiritual tradition of both Western and Eastern civilizations. In that centered place of wisdom, peace, and strength, we actually find our birthright. But just as true as that is, It's just as true that we are all going to veer away from that place again and again and again. That's the nature of life. In fact, we'll probably be off course more than we are on course. As Thich Nhat Hanh once said, it's never been easier to run away from ourselves. But it's impossible to live a good life, a full life, without keeping a pathway to this place open. We all know that in the last few decades, millions of Americans have left organized religion. But according to the most recent Pew survey, a staggering 92% of adults say they have a spiritual belief in God, in the afterlife, in something spiritual beyond the natural world, in the existence of a soul. It's no coincidence that this flourishing of the spiritual impulse is happening just as AI outstrips humans in intelligence, putting into stark relief the spiritual truth encoded within us that makes us uniquely human. It doesn't matter what we call the spiritual part of ourselves or what practices we introduce into our lives to help us connect to it, but it does matter. It matters very, very much whether we acknowledge it and incorporate it into our lives. When we don't, we amputate from our experience a fundamental truth and thousands of years of Western and Eastern wisdom that celebrate this part of ourselves. And for that, we pay a very heavy price. Looking at the breakdowns all around us, the mental health crisis, depression, anxiety, suicides, deaths of despair, we see the huge costs that we are bearing, both individually and collectively. So while AI will soon exceed our intelligence capabilities, it will never exceed our consciousness capabilities. The question is, how can we use what AI can do to help augment what it cannot do? AI's superpower is hyper-personalization, and we can use this superpower to help us tap into our superpowers. At the core of philosophy and religion is the idea of self-knowledge. To become who we want to be, we have to know who we are. In ancient Greece, it was distilled in the simple Delphic admonition at the Temple of Apollo, know thyself. The Bhagavad Gita exhorts us to take the sword of self-knowledge. And AI can know us better than we know ourselves because AI never forgets. With its ability to process and store several billion data points, and with its superhuman memory, AI will know not just your preferences about foods and exercise, etc. It will know what sacred texts you like, what music moves you, what part of nature you resonate with. It will recall that piece of poetry that inspired you in college, which, trust me, you will forget. So we can use AI not just to know much more about the world around us, but to discover more about the world inside us. And AI can give us real-time nudges and recommendations when we most need them to keep us connected to that center place of wisdom and strength. That's a personal mission of mine, to build AI that is a co-pilot on our journey, not just towards greater productivity or better PowerPoint presentations or better dad jokes or optimized dating profiles, although these are all very important, but towards greater physical health, greater mental health, and greater spiritual health. I call it a GPS for our soul. And like the GPS in our car, when we fall short or take a wrong turn, the GPS doesn't judge us. You know, when I take a wrong turn, the GPS doesn't say, "I said turn left, you idiot." It just recalculates and course corrects with a new route to where we need to be. And once AI helps us fulfill the directive to know thyself, it will then be our job to fulfill the directive to be true to ourselves. Now, there are many AI doomsayers who claim that AI will hack the operating system of civilization. But let me break it to you. Social media technologies have already hacked the operating system of civilization, exploiting our weaknesses, our biases, our addictions, with skyrocketing increases in polarization as well as depression and anxiety. With AI, we have a technology that instead of accelerating the problems caused by previous technologies, can actually be a defense against them. As the 17th century French philosopher Blaise Pascal said, all of humanity's problems stem from man's inability to sit quietly in a room alone. Do you know that there was actually a test done, Harvard and the University of West Virginia, where they invited people to choose either to sit alone in a room for 15 minutes or to get electric shock. And 67% of men chose electric shock. The wiser sex, women, 25% chose electric shock. This is a problem. And AI, by creating a barrier against the noise of the outside world and the attention mining algorithms of previous technologies, it can actually help us quiet the noise. Of course, AI algorithms will continue to be used to exploit the worst in us. But the key here is to understand that we are all a mixture of good and bad. And as you venture forth today, never forget that we are all works in progress. Alexander Solzhenitsyn summed it up when he said, "The line separating good and evil passes right through every human heart. These are not the bad people, and these are the good people. We all have that potential for goodness, all the potential to tap into the better angels of our nature. And with the benefit and clarity of hindsight, and what led us to where we are now, we can proceed with eyes wide open to use this new technology to strengthen what's best in us." I know there is a lot of excitement at the moment about exploring outer space. I'm sorry if I don't share it. I'm super excited about exploring inner space. A very neglected, unmapped, and equally infinite frontier, which of course is the ultimate frontier. Because that's where that center place, the eye of the hurricane, is to be found. And given the time of radical uncertainty and turbulence that you're graduating in, trust me, you will need to find it more than ever as you leave this sacred place. Incentives are superpowers. They help shape the future. Up to now, much of our technology has produced a world that consumes our attention, that keeps us living in the shallows, barraging us with constant, insistent, flashing, high-volume signals that distract us from asking life's big questions and living what Dean Sonney called heroic lives. It can lock us into a perpetual present, keeping us from tapping into the wisdom of the past or building the future that we truly want. So please remember, your attention is your most valuable resource. What you give your attention to is what you give your life to. So as you leave these beautiful grounds and take your place in the world, demand a world of technology that's worthy of you and settle for nothing else. And now that we have a technology that can answer any question in seconds, can we please use this moment not just to ask the right questions of the machines, but to also ask the right questions of ourselves? In the conversation on AI, we hear a lot about agents and how the world will be shaped up by them. Yes, you will be surrounded by agents, but you are the ultimate agent. You are the architects of the future. And if you build it based on what's best in humanity, they will come. Because the longing to connect with what's best in us, with the better angels of our nature, is at least as deeply imprinted and encoded in us as what's worst in us. And now, USC class of 2025, congratulations. Onward, upward, and inward.